Guys, Noncer Detecting here. Today I want to talk about the President of the United States. Obviously, really cliche topic. I'm sure it has been touched about 300 billion times in the last 2 years. But I want to talk about maybe how to understand him because the issue with maybe not hating Donald Trump is the fact that people straight away think that you simply agree with his political agenda completely, and I need to address that because it's really not true. Actually, most people, I wouldn't say most people to be fair, but a lot of the people that likes Donald Trump, they don't like him for his political agenda. They like him for what he represents. And I'm going to be addressing that today. I'm going to explain with detail what I mean by, liking what he represents. So, um, I'm sure a lot of you guys know what political correctness is, but if you don't, I'll define it briefly. Political correctness is when people don't really express challenging ideas in order to not get hate from the media or from the public. This means that they water down their beliefs and their ideas to the point that it can be accepted by everyone, but that also means that you're not bringing anything new to the table. That's the issue with political correctness. Political correctness is basically actively trying to not be offensive to anyone at all, and by that you achieve nothing. So, why is Trump the greatest weapon against political correctness? Well, really simple. He doesn't care whatever people thinks about what he says. He simply expresses his true opinions, and he seems to be bulletproof to the backlash because instead of trying to retract from what he says, instead of apologizing, instead of trying to change his statements, he fires back. He attacks the media. Whoever attacks him is gonna get hate from him. He's basically fighting the same way that the media fights against him. So the media spreads news about him that may or may not be fake, and he's just gonna call them fake news. And because he has such a large follower base, this is going to hurt the media. So he is the strongest enemy of political correctness because he is someone that just doesn't care, and this is what people likes about him more than anything else. Of course, there are a lot of people that voted for Trump that actually likes his political agenda. I do like some of his political agenda points, not all of them. I don't like his stance on climate change. I think he's wrong on that. I think he's a bit too radical when it comes to Muslims, although I completely understand the issue with Muslims and terrorists. And I am fully aware of the terrible issues that we're having, especially in Europe, with the massive amount of terrorist attacks. So he does have a good reason to complain about this, but the way he says it is a bit too extreme. I mean, calling for a complete Muslim ban on the country in the campaign, that was a bit too extreme. But what he ended up doing was something pretty fair. He just banned people coming from only 7 Muslim countries, the most extremist ones, the ones that have the most terrorist cells, and he did this ban for 90 days. So to give you an idea, Obama implemented a longer ban of 6 months on people coming from Iraq. So even Obama had stronger policies in this sense. So I do agree with him in some way with a Muslim ban. I understand what he means, but of course I agree with some other things that he says. I agree with him talking about lowering taxes, with him focusing on American workers and making sure there is an American working industry running well in America, in the US. I think that's really important for the country, and I think it's really good that he's fighting for this because other political leaders and other political candidates just didn't seem to care that much about this issue specifically. I also like how he tackles illegal immigration. Again, he doesn't think of Mexicans as rapists. He simply says that some of the illegal immigrants can be really dangerous, and you can see that if you go near the borders, you have extremely high crime rates from illegal immigrants, because the thing is, a lot of these immigrants that are illegal, they are criminals or trying to run away from the country, and obviously they can't do that legally. So what you have is a large number of real criminals, murderers, and as he said, rapists, just trying to cross the border just to run away. He's not saying Mexicans in general are criminals. He's talking about a certain number of illegal immigrants. So I totally agree with him on that stance. Now, let's go back to this point that I wanted to make, and that is that a lot of people, as I said before, doesn't agree with him on his political agenda. They just think he is such a good tool against political correctness because he is bulletproof, because he doesn't care if he gets backlash. He keeps saying whatever he wants and he never retracts. That's really important because we don't really want everyone to be exactly like him. That would be a bit extreme, but by having these extreme, you're gonna have a lot of people is going to be a bit more like him, not completely like him, and either, because that would be, you know, a bit too crazy, but people are gonna start behaving a bit the way he does, and this is going to destroy the narrative of political correctness. Political correctness will eventually die off because now the new trend, what's fresh and new, is just being challenging like it used to be in the past. In the 20th century politics, most of the 20th century politics, it was all about bringing up challenging ideas and being fresh and just talking about things that people weren't talking about, and that's what would get you votes, that's what would get you elected. But lately, the issues that most politicians talk about the same things that everyone has heard over and over again, and you never hear new challenging ideas that you may not agree with at first because they're so new and so challenging that you really have to understand them first. We don't see that happening anymore because you just get so much backlash if you bring up this kind of ideas. Trump is the person who is going to bring that back again, and that's why me, for example, really likes him, because he represents the end of political correctness. There's been a trend of nationalism after his election and after Brexit, and I think he and Brexit mainly triggered this new movement of nationalism. Again, I want to state that there's nothing wrong with nationalism. Nationalism is just being proud of your country and putting your country first in the list of priorities that you want to have as a politician. So there's nothing wrong with that, obviously, but in the last years, it was all about caring about the immigrants coming to your country. It was all about international relations, how your country relates to their countries, but you ended up forgetting about the priorities that your country needed. So this new nationalist movement is rising up because of Brexit and Trump, and that's really good. We're seeing Catalonia trying to be independent. They chose this moment. I mean, Catalonia already wanted to be independent for many years, but they chose this political climate, this current political climate, because it was trendy and it was fresh, and they knew they would have a much larger follow base if they try to try to become independent in this political period. So they did it, and it kind of worked in the sense that everyone ended up siding with the Catalans, not the Spanish people. Most people, internationally, everyone was agreeing with the Catalans because there was this new trend of being nationalist, being politically incorrect, and taking bold decisions just like Trump does all the time. Now, do I like all the tweets that he says? Do I like some of the stuff that he says? No, of course. Sometimes he says things that are wrong, but that's just with like any politician. You can't expect anyone to be completely perfect and not say anything ever that is offensive. He's more offensive than normal people. He fucks up more often than normal people. But do I think he's the worst president we've ever had? Absolutely not. By the way, I'm not American, so I shouldn't have said that. But do I think he's the worst president that America had? Absolutely not. I think he's not. He may not be the best president American had, but he is a pretty good president. He is getting done a lot of the stuff that he said that he would get done in his political agenda. So props to him for that. And he is genuine, and that is so important. He really, when he said all of those things, he meant them. He wanted to do these things to the country, and you can see that he's trying to achieve this. He's not being very successful at it because he still has a lot of people against him, and that they're making that really, really hard. But he's genuine with his intentions. When you see Trump talking on a speech, that is really him. And the issue is that when you see any other politician, most other politicians, usually left-leaning politicians, when they are speaking on a speech, they're not really being themselves. They're pretending to be someone else, and it's basically they appear to be way more shallow than Trump. Trump is Trump. He is who he is. He doesn't hide who he really is, and that's what makes him so powerful. That's what makes him. That's what makes everyone like him more than other politicians. So it's important that you understand this, because if you understand this, you will probably stop hating so much on people that doesn't hate Trump, because people can like Trump for this specific reason, which I believe it's a really fair reason to like him. The fact that he is simply breaking this notion that you're not allowed to say certain things. You're allowed to say whatever you want, and you will get backlash depending on what you say, and that's how ideas will evolve. Ideas are supposed to be spread in an open, free market of ideas, and then whatever people think about these ideas is what's going to make this idea successful or not. So the logic here is that I can say whatever I want, and if it makes sense, everyone's going to agree with me, and this idea is going to work because everyone agrees with it, so it must be fair, all right? If this idea is unfair, if this idea is offensive, it is wrong, it will automatically be shut down once it goes out in public. Once everyone has the chance to criticize it, everyone's going to hate on it, and this idea is going to be suppressed. So this notion that it's dangerous to spread certain ideas is not true, because dangerous ideas never go too far. They always stay in their in the first phase, which is when they're just published. So that's what I wanted to say for today. Really long video, but I talk really fast. Try to compress everything in a fairly short video. I hope you guys liked it, and see you guys next time. Peace.